01 I was getting married, but my boyfriend of 8 years still didn't know. Lately, he had been busy with his new female secretary. They clicked right away and chatted endlessly. To celebrate her birthday, he even ordered a 10-layer cream cake. At the party, they smeared cream everywhere, forgetting that I was severely allergic to it. After being rushed to the hospital, I woke up and agreed to the arranged marriage my family had proposed. Mom wasted no time. As soon as I got back from the hospital and was about to swipe my keycard to enter, she sent me dozens of wedding plans to choose from. Scrolling through the options, I stopped at her last message. I knew all along you and Lucas wouldn't last. If he truly wanted to marry you, why would he drag things out for 8 years? It's not too late to realize this. I've already prepared wedding plans for you. The wedding is in 3 days. Take your time packing. No need to rush. So this was also obvious to everyone else. Yet, I was trapped in Lucas' empty promises, unable to let go. Sighing, I sent her a voice message. Mom, pick whatever you think is best. I like them all. Let's keep the wedding simple. I didn't notice when Lucas walked up behind me. When he heard the word wedding, he blurted out in shock, wedding? What wedding? Just as he tried to peek at my screen, I quickly put my phone away. He reached out to grab it, but in the next second, his phone started ringing. The night was so quiet that I could clearly hear a panicked female voice on the other end. Lucas, I just went downstairs to grab something, and I think someone is following me. I'm so scared. I walked around the block, but I still can't shake him off. Lucas' expression changed instantly, filled with concern. Celine, don't worry. Go to a well-lit area. There should be someone on duty at the security station. Stay there and I'll be there soon. He hung up, completely forgetting about the wedding. Without hesitation, he left me standing there and rushed off into the night. I kept my expression perfectly calm. After he left, I called my aunt to say goodbye. Aunt, my parents had moved out of town to pursue their careers 10 years ago, and since then, I'd been living with my Lucas lived next door, and that was how we met. Later, when my aunt got married and sold her villa to move in with her husband, I didn't want to intrude on her new life, so I temporarily stayed with Lucas. I never expected that temporary stay to last 8 years. When Aunt Mina heard I was leaving to get married, she was shocked. Married? To Lucas? Well, that's good. It's been 8 years, so I guess it's about time to settle down. I pressed my lips together and corrected her assumption. No, it's an arranged marriage. I don't know the person. She fell silent for a moment, then slowly asked, have you thought this through? I think Lucas really cares about you. I just don't know why he hasn't proposed. Maybe I should talk to him. I gave a small, indifferent smile. No need. It wasn't really a relationship anyway. We never formally got together. It's just been this vague, ambiguous thing for 8 years. If I don't end it now, my whole youth will be gone. Aunt Mina was surprised that we'd lived together for 8 years without even defining our relationship, so she didn't try to dissuade me further and said she'd support my decision. Before going to bed, I set a 3-day countdown widget on my phone. The next day, I asked my mom to send some local gifts over as a thank you to my aunt for her care over the past decade and as a way to say goodbye. That evening, a truckload of packages finally arrived. I gave the driver directions to my aunt's house, but I didn't expect to run into Lucas downstairs. Celine's delicate figure trailed closely behind him, the two of them each carrying bags of household supplies. From the supermarket, they looked just like a young couple moving in together. Just then, Aunt Mina came down to greet me and saw the scene. She was about to speak up when I interrupted her. Mom's gifts for you have arrived. Be sure to check the expiration dates. Don't let anything go bad. I didn't look at Lucas even once, though this time he, surprisingly, took the initiative to explain. Ellie, don't misunderstand. Celine's previous neighborhood wasn't safe, so I found her a new place. I didn't realize your aunt lives here, too. By the way, why did you buy so much stuff? As I directed the driver to bring up the deliveries, I replied nonchalantly, you don't need to tell me about your work. My mom bought this stuff. We don't know when we'll be back, so she got a lot. Seeing I hadn't misunderstood, Lucas looked visibly relieved. No problem. The north suburb isn't far. Just let me know anytime you want to come over. He still didn't know I was moving back for good, and I had no plans to tell him. Aunt Mina was going to speak, but seeing how carefully Lucas was looking after Celine, her expression turned grim. The four of us stood there awkwardly until Celine, looking tired, finally broke the silence. Lucas immediately told the driver to pause the delivery, saying they had fewer things and could use the elevator first. Seeing the bags of household items he was carrying, I stepped aside to let them go. Lucas looked briefly surprised, then hurriedly stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, I couldn't help but see a glimpse of my former self in Celine. Back when my aunt first moved, Lucas had been just as attentive, running errands and taking care of me, moving all my things into his home with a smile, saying he was welcoming his future lady of the house. Watching the elevator, Aunt Mina sighed with some regret. Are you sure you don't want me to ask him? You've known each other for so long. It would be a shame to break up over a misunderstanding. I shook my head. No need. There's no misunderstanding between us. He never lets one last overnight. If he hasn't explained, then that's it. Lucas and Celine didn't actually have that much to carry. They could have finished it all in one trip. But even after I delivered the things to my aunt and said my goodbyes, he was still nowhere to be seen downstairs. Out of courtesy to an old friend, I pulled out my phone and sent him a quick message, asking when he'd be back. Almost immediately, he replied with a voice message. I clicked on it and Celine's sweet voice came through. Ellie, Lucas is helping me fix the electrical wiring here. This place has never been lived in, so there's a lot to tidy up. You should go home first, don't let us hold you up. Just as I was about to close the app and call a cab, she sent another message. By the way, Ellie, please don't overthink it. Lucas is just helping me out. He just felt sorry for me because I'm living all alone in this big city. Chat. Thinking of my own parents, who had moved far away years ago, I swallowed back my words and closed the after getting into the cab and gazing absent-mindedly out the window. Lucas called. Ellie, why were you so harsh with Celine? She's my subordinate, and I was just helping her find a place to live. The company hasn't arranged accommodation yet. Isn't it normal for me to help? Since when did you start acting like this, huh? At the birthday party, you were sulking, saying you didn't feel well and wanted to leave. I haven't even addressed that, and now you're causing trouble again. I could hear Celine's soft sobs through the phone. Her demeanor in front of me was nothing like the sweet, innocent junior Lucas described. Taking a deep breath, I finally understood her intentions but was too tired to defend myself. Yeah, you're right. My bad. I was just asking. Don't worry, I'm already back home. I didn't wait for you. Lucas' questioning tone was silenced by my cool, indifferent response, which seemed to catch in his throat. I ended the call just as the car arrived at my apartment complex. After getting out, I noticed a flood of notifications from Lucas' work group chat. When I opened it, the unread message count was already showing. At the top was a photo that Celine had posted of Lucas fixing her electrical wiring and plumbing. Who else has a boss this considerate? She wrote, I'd gladly devote my life to this company. Can I sign a lifetime contract? Below her post were comments from other employees filled with envy and admiration. I've never seen the boss act like this. Didn't the cleaning lady say he's a neat freak? Doesn't look like it here. Oh my god, he looks so handsome without his suit. From now on, I'm dreaming about being Mrs. Haskins. Hands off, everyone. This photo was posted by the future Mrs. Haskins. Snap out of it. Working is your only destiny. Before he hired Celine, I used to help Lucas out with all these tasks without expecting anything in return. But after she joined and took over my role, I forgot to leave the group chat. After reading all the replies in the group, I deleted the record and exited the app. Now that I had made my decision to move on, seeing this preview of their life together didn't hurt as much as I thought it might. I recalled the early days when I'd just started at the company after graduation. Lucas used to share snippets of my work in the group chat all the time, sneaking photos of me making coffee or updating the schedule. It was obvious to everyone in the office that he liked me. With his love, even the daily grind felt a little sweeter, and his affection brought a spark to the dull work chat. But everything changed once Celine entered the picture. She took over all my responsibilities, and Lucas banned any mention of me in the group. He seemed drawn to her, openly and subtly. One of my former colleagues, who had been close to me, once made a harmless comment that Celine wasn't as capable as I'd been. Lucas immediately docked her an entire year's bonus. Later, I secretly transferred her $10,000, hoping to prevent her from impulsively quitting. When I returned to the place I'd called home for 8 years but never truly belonged to, I started packing up my things. My gaze fell on a thick photo album filled with memories from the past decade. Sitting on the edge of my bed, I opened it and flipped through each page. Each photo represented a gift Lucas had given me. 8 years ago, he told me he'd give me surprises before we'd walk down the aisle together. He wanted to win my heart with sincerity, so I'd willingly become his wife. The album, custom made to hold exactly photos, now had just one blank page left. But in the end, it was all for nothing. Taking the album downstairs to a quiet, open area, I lit a match and set it ablaze. I watched as each photo burned, turning slowly to ash, burying the last 8 years of my life with it. Lucas arrived to see me standing over the flames, his face drained of color. He rushed over, pushing me aside to try and salvage what he could. but the heat was too intense for him to reach in. Within seconds, his hands turned red from the heat. Furious, he stomped on the burning album, trying to snuff out the flames as they devoured each photo. "What the hell are you doing? Are you crazy? All these memories gone because of you." Teddy struggled to my feet, brushing the dust from my pajamas. The fire cast a warm glow on my face, but my voice was ice cold. "It's fine." I opened the album and saw bugs crawling inside, maybe cockroaches, so I burned it. Seeing my calm demeanor, Lucas finally realized he might have overreacted. Taking a deep breath, he softened his tone. "Are you okay? I'm sorry I got a little too worked up. We've been collecting those photos for 10 years. Weren't we going to share them at our wedding? Why did you burn them? If there were bugs, you could have waited for me to come back or at least messaged me. I would have taken care of it," he added. I didn't bother looking at him. The man standing before me was no longer the boy who had once promised to protect me forever. "You've been busy with work for ages, so I didn't want to bother you with something so trivial." He stood beside me, gazing sadly at the ashes. This scene couldn't have been more ironic. He was the one who destroyed our 10-year relationship for another woman, yet here he was, acting like he still cared. I turned to go back inside, but he mistook my indifference for pouting and pulled me into his arms. The sickly sweet scent of black opium cologne filled the air, making me sneeze repeatedly, but he didn't let go, seemingly overwhelmed with remorse. "Are you feeling sick?" he asked, his voice tender. "I'm sorry. I know I've been neglecting you lately. Once things settle down, let's retake those photos, all right? We'll replace what was lost, double it, even." If it was before, hearing these words might have softened me. But after a trip to the ER and realizing he'd forgotten my severe allergy in favor of another woman, I could no longer pretend. I didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. When he finally released me, I pulled away with resolve and said, "No need to apologize. If you really want to make it up to me, maybe you could throw me a proper birthday party." Due to my cream allergy, I was always missing from my own celebrations. But since I'd be leaving soon, I wanted to experience at least one birthday with him by my side. Surprisingly, he seemed rattled by my simple request. He nodded, but before he could respond further, his phone rang. Glancing at the screen, he quickly explained, "It's something urgent from work. Don't wait for me tonight, I'll make it up to you, I promise." As he spoke, he was already backing away. By the time he finished, he was meters away, practically running. Actually, I was aware that it was the ringtone exclusively for Celine, but I didn't confront him about his lie. The next morning, people arrived to set up the party, and among them was Celine herself. She claimed to be there to oversee the arrangements since she'd designed the setup. But by the end of the day, I noticed that the decorations were just a simpler version of her own birthday party. When the workers left, she sauntered over, a smug smile on her face. "Well, everyone's been hard at work all day. What do you think? Does it suit your taste?" As I looked at her, my gaze darted to the necklace she wore, a piece I had lost. I squinted my eyes as I intoned coldly, "A second-hand setup for a second-hand person. It suits you just fine." Hearing my words, Celine seemed offended, and without another word, she glanced to the side, picked up a crystal ornament, and smashed it to the floor. A shard cut her foot, and she began to cry pitifully. Before I could react, Lucas stormed over and slapped me across the face. "Enough with the tantrums. Celine took the day off to help with your party, and this is how you repay her," he growled. "If you don't like it, then do it yourself." Without waiting for an explanation, he scooped Celine into his arms and rushed her out. I sat alone in the now lifeless room, the silence around me growing heavy. The next morning, no one had shown up for the party. Well, it was not surprising, really. Lucas had been my only friend for these 10 years. When the cake arrived, I opened the box, cut myself a small piece, and stuck a single candle in it. Closing my eyes, I made a simple wish. May we never meet again. I couldn't even eat the cake because of my allergy. When my phone rang, signaling the end of my countdown, I grabbed my suitcase and walked out without looking back. On the way to the airport, I sent Lucas one final message. "Let's end things here. There's no need to keep in touch. Not even a breakup. Just a simple ending to 10 years of my life." As I turned off my phone before boarding, he was already calling me like a madman. Chapter 5. How long had it been since he worried about me like this? 3 years? 5? Or perhaps even longer. In my memories, we were always inseparable, understanding each other better than anyone else in the world. Sometimes, we didn't need words, a single glance was enough for him to know my feelings. Perhaps my deep reliance on him made him so certain that I would always choose him, that I could never leave him. That certainty gave him the freedom to hurt me and to openly court another woman, completely forgetting that I was human too, capable of sadness and pain. I glanced at the countless missed calls on my Chapter 5 screen and blocked his number. As I was about to delete him from my social media, I noticed he had changed his profile picture. The cartoon I had drawn for him 8 years ago was gone, replaced by a photo that looked nothing like him, the one I knew of. At that moment, I remembered a saying. When a guy who never changed his profile picture suddenly updated it, it usually meant he had a new woman in his life. My breath hitched as I shakily pressed the delete button, clearing a decade's worth of memories and chat history in an instant. After reassuring my aunt, who had messaged me to check on my safety, I turned off my phone and boarded the plane, leaving without a backward glance. The 3-hour flight felt neither long nor short, just enough Chapter 5 time to reflect on the past 10 years. As the plane landed, I wiped my face dry. After ensuring I looked presentable and didn't show signs of having cried, I stepped out of the airport. From a distance, I saw my parents waiting, arms full of gifts. My dad took my suitcase while my mom placed a small crown on my head, tears glistening in her eyes. Our daughter has grown up so beautifully, even more stunning than in the photos. It's so good to have you back home, don't ever leave us again, she croaked. My dad watched me lovingly, his eyes filled with tenderness, every wrinkle on his face telling a story of care. Don't worry, I've picked out a perfect match for you this time. Chapter 5, it's only a kilometer from home. If you feel unhappy, just come back, your mom and I will support you, he added. I forced a smile, nuzzling against my mom's shoulder. During our 10 years apart, my parents had often expressed their desire to bring me back home, but I had always declined with various excuses. I had thought about returning during Christmas, but Lucas insisted on taking me to celebrate the new year with his family to help me get accustomed to their atmosphere. I had foolishly believed it meant he was committed to me, that we would be together forever. So I agreed to his proposal without hesitation. All the family gatherings during those 10 years had been spent at the Haskins household. Chapter 5 now, facing my aging and weary parents, guilt washed over me. I nodded resolutely. Don't worry, I'm not a child anymore. I won't run home at the first sign of trouble. Besides, when I get married, it will be a joyful experience. I trust Dad's judgment. Seeing me accept this marriage arrangement, my parents visibly relaxed. That's good. We were worried about you and that guy, but let's not dwell on it. Have you wrapped up everything over there? If anything else comes up, let your aunt handle it. It wouldn't be convenient for you to be running back and forth during your honeymoon. The mention of Lucas made my heart skip a beat. Yes, it's all settled. Aunt Mina asked me to send her regards. She'll join us for the Chapter 5 wedding after she finishes her work tonight. As my parents led me to the car, my phone rang abruptly. I glanced at the unfamiliar number, but it felt eerily familiar. Answering the call, Lucas' suppressed anger erupted on the other end. You've really grown bold, Ellie. Who gave you the right to block me? Where have you been? Where are you now? After injuring Celine, you don't have anything to say. You just disappeared without cleaning up after the party we set up for you, he roared. I expect you to be at the hospital in 1 hour to apologize to Celine. Otherwise, I'm going to be really mad this time, he continued angrily. Chapter 5. Before I could respond, I heard Celine's gentle voice. I'm fine. It's just a minor injury. Don't blame Ellie, it wasn't her intention. She just didn't like the decorations. I thought she would like it, so it's my fault. The call abruptly ended, and I knew he must be busy trying to console her. A wave of nausea churned in my stomach, threatening to spill over. Noticing the change in my expression, Mom asked worriedly, "What's wrong, sweetheart? Are you feeling unwell after just arriving? Do you need some medicine?" I bit my lip and shook my head. I'm fine, it was just a spam call. Let's go home. How's the wedding planning coming? Cloned, should we otan who the bridal chan talk Chapter 5 along? Should we stop by the bridal shop to try on the wedding dress? They only took my measurements and I'm worried it won't fit tomorrow, I suggested, trying to shift the topic. After pondering for a moment, Mom decided to have Dad turn the car around to head to the bridal shop. You always think ahead. But the dress was handmade by a famous designer, so as long as your measurements were accurate, it should fit fine. Well, it'll be nice for me to see you as a bride in advance. Looking into my mom's expectant eyes, I found myself unable to protest. The traffic was horrendous, and it took an hour to reach the bridal store. With the staff's help, it took another hour to get into pseudo Chapter 5, the wedding dress. Facing my reflection, both familiar and strange, I couldn't help but feel tears welling in my eyes. The dress was gorgeous, just like the one I had envisioned in my dreams. Too bad the groom was a different man. My mom excitedly grabbed her phone to take pictures, wanting to capture my beautiful moment. Before I could stop her, she had already posted the photos online. My daughter is stunning, like a model. Let everyone see and feel envious. I felt helpless but didn't have the heart to argue. She even set the photos as her wallpaper and made them her profile picture on social media, sharing them everywhere she could. Chapter 5. The flood of maternal love that had been pent up for 10 years overwhelmed me, leaving me speechless. Chapter 6. After taking off the wedding dress, my dad hesitantly spoke up. "Shouldn't you meet Isaac, Jules? After all, the wedding is tomorrow. It wouldn't be right for the two of you to have never met, don't you think?" I hesitated for a moment but ultimately declined his kind offer. "No thanks, I trust your judgment, Dad." Mom, noticing my low spirits, exchanged a glance with Dad, signaling him to drop the subject. Just as we got into the car, Aunt Mina suddenly called. "Ellie, haven't you told Lucas you're back? He doesn't seem worried at all. I saw him helping that little vixen upstairs." I nearly lunged at her to scratch her face off. She continued. "No wonder he hadn't tried to contact me for a while. He was busy seeing Celine home." I lowered my gaze, hiding the emotions swirling in my eyes. "No, I just mentioned the breakup. We never had a formal confession. He's at most just a friend. There's no need to tell him about my marriage." Aunt Mina sighed on the other end of the line. "All right, I don't understand your generation. By the way, I've booked a midnight flight, so I should make it to the wedding." "Thanks, Auntie. Please be safe," I softly answered. After we hung up, my mom's frustration boiled over. "After all these years, he hasn't even given you a proper confession. You wasted 10 years on someone like that," she uttered in disbelief. "If I had known, I would have urged you to come back and marry sooner. What kind of person is he? You've been defending him in front of us, and I really thought you were happy. How dare you bully my daughter like this?" she huffed in anger. I gently patted my mom's hand to soothe her. "I never lied to you. I was genuinely happy at that time. Before Celine showed up, things were going well between us. We were so close to reaching our happy ending. How did it all go wrong?" I held back the tears threatening to spill and gazed out the window. This unfamiliar city provided a rare sense of calm. It felt like I could start my life anew from this moment. But when I got home and finished washing up, Mom angrily threw her phone onto the sofa. "Who reported the photos I posted? How does my daughter's wedding dress bother anyone? Why is there so much hostility online? Can't people stand to see others live happily?" Chapter 7. Dad adjusted his glasses, frowning. "Reported? For what reason? Did it get taken down? This is ridiculous. I'm going to call the company to ask about this." Suddenly remembering something, I rushed to stop Dad. "No need. It's probably just that the dress was too expensive and it might mislead some people. Or maybe there are just people who are envious of the wealthy. It's fine if it gets deleted, let it be." I picked up my mom's phone to take a look. Sure enough, it was Lucas' Facebook. Just then, my phone rang. To avoid alarming my parents, I expressionlessly returned to my bedroom to answer. "Ellie, what were you doing at the bridal shop? Who told you to try on a wedding dress? Who were you with?" "Alone." Lucas spoke in one breath. "I told you to come home, don't you get it? I've been waiting for you here for ages. Don't push my buttons." I took a deep breath to steady my emotions before replying. "Lucas, do you think you're some kind of emperor? I'm an adult and I can do whatever I want. I already told you that we're over. Why can't you understand such simple words?" Rolling my eyes, I added, "What does trying on a wedding dress have to do with you? If you keep bothering me, I'll report you. And that place was never my home. It's your home." Before he could respond, I hung up and blocked his new number. Lying in the meticulously prepared bedroom by my parents, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. At 4 in the morning, Aunt Mina sent me a message. "How did Lucas find his way to my house? What did you say to him? He seemed off today. He kept asking me where you were, and he wouldn't get up from my doorstep." Rubbing my tired eyes, I replied, "I've already made it clear. He's probably just losing it, unable to handle that someone who chased him suddenly vanished. His pride must be hurt. You didn't tell him where I am, did you? Do you think your aunt is that foolish?" Of Chapter 7. Course not. I'm already on my way to the airport, looking forward to my niece's wedding. But do you really need to wake up this early for your wedding? Why are you up already? I didn't reply, shutting off my phone. Tears streamed down my cheeks, blurring my vision. As I lay there with only an hour left to sleep, I finally dozed off in a haze. Even in my dreams, I felt restless, Lucas' voice echoing in my ears. "You can't leave, you can't walk away from me. I won't allow it. Who permitted you to get married? You can only be with me. I was wrong before, please give me another chance." "All right. Ellie, please forgive me." Tears soaked my cheeks as I sobbed uncontrollably until my mom called me awake, pulling me from the nightmare. "What's wrong, Ellie? What were you dreaming about? Why are you crying like this? Do you not want to get married?" she asked worriedly. "If our baby doesn't want to get married, then you shouldn't force yourself. I'll talk to them, don't worry." I quickly grabbed my mom's hand. No, I do want to marry, I just had a nightmare. I'm fine. After a quick wash, I prepared to do my hair and makeup when my phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Celine. She was probably calling to gloat. After all, she was the winner, while I felt like a coward. I didn't answer, coldly tapping the hang-up button. But she sent several messages right after. Ellie, I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. Please forgive me, it's all my fault. Can you talk to President Haskins and ask him not to fire me? I have elderly parents to support, I really can't lose this job. I can't even afford the rent here on my own, and I've drained all my savings. I really can't hang on any longer. I admit I had some feelings for President Haskins before, but nothing ever happened between us. I swear on my life. When you between us. I swear on my life. When you left, he stopped answering my calls and deleted my contact info. I'm left with no choice but to beg you. The other employees said he likes you the most and he'll listen to whatever you say. Chapter 8. Mom brought in breakfast and saw me staring at my phone, confusion crossing her face. What's wrong? Is something bothering you? I shook my head and didn't reply to Celine's messages. I didn't believe a word she said and didn't want any more ties to my past. After the wedding, I would get a new phone number. I didn't have many friends anyway, so changing my number wouldn't make much difference, but it would save me a lot of trouble. Just as I took a bite of breakfast, the doorbell rang. Mom grumbled as she went to open the door. Who could it be this early? Didn't Isaac just message that he hadn't left yet? Soon, she came back in with a cup of milk tea. Who ordered takeout? She glanced at the name on the receipt and her brows furrowed. Baby L. Ellie, your milk tea is here. I'll set it aside for you. You shouldn't drink too much of this if you want some, just let the maid brew it fresh for you. Mom placed the milk tea in front of me and then left the room. My heart raced as I dug my nails deep into my palm. I hadn't ordered any takeout, my orders never had my name on them. Baby L was a nickname Lucas had used to cheer me up with takeout before. But it had been a long time since he used it. Did he know I was back home? But how did he know my address? Shaking my head, I sighed. I couldn't think too deeply about it. I picked up the cup of milk tea and took a closer look, and the thought solidified even more. Even the flavor was exactly what I loved, less ice, no sugar. I inserted the straw and took a sip, the sweet milk flavor spreading in my mouth. Tears filled my eyes and the makeup artist gasped, quickly grabbing a tissue to wipe my tears. Miss Ellie, please don't cry. We finally got the base makeup on, it will smudge. My mom rushed in at the sound, flustered as she tried to comfort me. Ellie, why are you crying? Do you not want to get married? If you really don't want to, it's okay, I won't force you. Your dad thinks Isaac is a good match, but our company is doing well, it's not like we need to rely on a marriage alliance. If you don't want to do it, then don't, sweetie, don't cry. I didn't want my family to worry, so I fought back my emotions. My chest still tightened as I let the makeup artist begin her work. Mom, don't worry. I just can't bear to part with you and Dad, but I'm fine. Seeing that I was alright, Mom finally relaxed. You scared me. Don't worry, I've already spoken to the Jules family. After the wedding, you'll come back home for a while, and we'll let you two get to know each other slowly. Once your feelings stabilize, you can think about living together. She didn't feel comfortable leaving me alone with the makeup artist, so she stayed by my side until the makeup was finished. Finally, Isaac arrived to take me to the wedding. This was the first time I saw him, yet there was something oddly familiar about him. He exuded gentlemanly charm, a stark contrast to the rich playboys I had imagined. Dad's judgment was indeed far better than mine. We didn't exchange any words the entire way to the hotel. When we arrived, he got out of the car and in front of everyone picked me up and carried me inside. Startled, I instinctively wrapped my arms tightly around his neck. The subtle smile playing at the corners of his lips caught my attention, and my heart couldn't help but race a little faster. Chapter 9. Before long, it was time for the wedding to begin. Aunt Mina rushed in, giving me a tight hug and stuffing an elegant envelope into my hands. I don't know what happened, but the taxi was acting up today. It took me several detours to get here. I didn't think much of it, assuming the driver was just trying to avoid traffic. I helped her to a seat to rest while I took my place on the stage. However, as soon as I stepped into venue, a sense of unease began to fill my heart. When the ceremony reached the ring exchange, a man's furious shout suddenly pierced through the air from outside. Stop the Waddinal I don plus Ogrel the wedding. I don agree. At the next moment, Lucas' tall figure appeared before everyone. My parents' faces darkened instantly, and they hurriedly instructed the security to escort him out. But today, Lucas, who usually cared about his image, was strangely combative. He fought off the guards and pushed his way through, heading straight for the stage. "Ellie, you can't marry him. You can only be my bride." He reached out to me, his voice desperate. "I know I was wrong before, I admit all my mistakes. Please give me a chance. Please, I'll celebrate your birthday with you, I'll buy you a cake. I remember you allergic to cream, I'll eat the cake after you make your which Oberon tusk come with mole if you your wish, okay? Just come with me. If you walk away with me today, I'll agree to anything," he anxiously said. Hearing him plead with such desperate words, echoing my dreams, stirred no emotions within me. Isaac, noticing my lack of response, stepped in front of me, blocking Lucas' gaze. He then turned to the side and commanded the bodyguards to throw Lucas out of the wedding venue. The Jules family's bodyguards were a different caliber. Within moments, they had dragged him away. I stood by, watching Lucas in his most vulnerable and pitiful state. Once he was completely out of sight, I turned without hesitation to exchange rings with Isaac. The minor disruption to the wedding was quickly brushed aside with the host's jokes. After the ceremony ended and I finished greeting relatives, Isaac reminded me to deal with Lucas. Looking at the calm and magnanimous man before me, I nodded and lifted my wedding dress as I exited the hotel. Outside, I found Lucas sitting on the roadside, his face bloodied. As soon as he saw me, he rushed up, kneeling before me. "Ellie, let me explain. I was a jerk before, but I know now that I was wrong. Please give me a chance, let me make it up to you." Chapter 10. I brought back the necklace that Celine stole from you. "Look." He opened his palm to reveal the necklace. But the moment he turned his back on me, that gift had long lost its meaning. It didn't matter whose hands it fell into, I found the items that belonged to Celine, and the man I once loved utterly repugnant. Seeing my lack of response, Lucas panicked. "I really understand now. After you left, I checked the security footage at home. That day, you didn't touch her at all, it was all staged by her. It's all my fault, I didn't trust you, and was deceived by her. You can blame me, but please give me a chance to make it right. We've known each other for 10 years and grew up together. We promised to walk down the aisle together, have you forgotten?" he reminded, trying hard to move me with our past. Upon hearing that, I nodded slowly, watching his eyes dim with despair. "Fine, let's just say I forgot. I think that I fell out of love first. Well, you can think whatever you want, it's up to you." Shrugging, I continued, "As you can see, I'm already married. I said before, we're over. There's no need for any contact anymore." As soon as the words left my mouth, he frantically pulled out an album from his pocket. Inside were meticulously named Watan Likio, plus carat-printed photos, like a miniature version of the one I burned. Before he could speak, I snatched the album from his hands and tossed it into the nearby lake. He was taken aback, and before he realized what I had done, he leaped into the water, trying to retrieve it. But it was too late, the album had already disappeared. Just like our relationship, there was no way to salvage it now. Watching him climb out o lake, drenched and pitiful, I delivered my final words with an expressionless face. "Lucas, we were never officially together, but today I'm giving you a proper goodbye. Stop causing trouble, don't make me hate you. Let the past 10 years stay in your memories. Don't ruin the last good memory I have of you." After I finished speaking, I turned and walked away without looking back. Isaac was waiting for me at the hotel entrance. I got into the car with him, speeding away amidst Lucas' desperate gaze. "Goodbye, my 10 years.